Good morning, venture capital. This is Metagame, and today's episode is about the massive funding round that just shook Silicon Valley to its core and left everyone asking, how did Databricks just pull off the biggest tech deal of the quarter? $4 billion, one company, one quarter. While everyone's been arguing about which AI model is going to win, Databricks just quietly raised more money than most venture funds will ever deploy in their entire existence. And here's what makes this interesting. It's not even the full story. That $4 billion, it's just the equity portion of a $7 billion budget. $7 billion. With a B, that's not a funding round. That's a declaration on every horizontal infrastructure company that thought they had time to figure things out. So let me ask you something. Do you know where your portfolio actually sits in the AI stack? Because after today, you're going to realize that question has a very expensive wrong answer. Let's talk about what Databricks actually pulled off here. The SEC filing shows $4.08 billion raised in Q4, but that's like saying someone bought a house when they actually acquired the entire neighborhood. The full structure is $5 billion in equity at a $134 billion valuation, plus another $2 billion in debt capacity. They're not optimizing for growth anymore. They're optimizing for dominance. And the revenue numbers backing this up? At the December announcement, they crossed $4.8 billion in annual run rate. By February, 60 days later, that number hit $5.4 billion. They added $600 million in ARR in 2 months. That's not growth. That's compounding at a rate that makes spreadsheet formulas nervous. Now here's where it gets really interesting for anyone paying attention to capital flows. Compare Databricks to the rest of Q4's other technology category. Second place, Synopsys at $2 billion. Third, Kalshi scraped together $1.24 billion across 3 separate filings. Databricks didn't just win the quarter, they doubled the silver medalist. And Synopsys is a semiconductor design company that's been around for decades. Databricks is building the operating system for enterprise AI, and they're raising at the same scale as Elon Musk's vanity projects. Speaking of which, remember, xAI pulling $5.3 billion in Q3? That's the Elon premium, capital-chasing celebrity founder status and Twitter drama. Databricks proved something different. They proved that enterprise infrastructure can command the same mega-round scale when you pair it with 65% growth and a clear path to profitability. No rockets required. No social media platform as a loss leader. Just revenue. Building a new product? Temez Labs takes you from napkin sketch to the App Store. Trusted by Fortune 500s for quality, security, and speed. Book your free strategy session at temez.ai. The strategic implications here are significant for anyone caught in the middle of the stack. The AI market is bifurcating into 2 categories: platforms and applications. Platforms like Databricks, Snowflake, Azure AI, they capture the enterprise budgets. Applications capture the workflows. And that dangerous middle ground? Horizontal infrastructure that's not big enough to compete with $7 billion budgets, but not vertical enough to own a specific use case? That's where companies struggle, while their investors write optimistic board updates. Let me give you the demand-side context that makes Databricks' position so formidable. KPMG's Q4 Enterprise Survey found that 26% of enterprises have already deployed AI agents in production, not piloting, not evaluating, deployed, and 67% of AI budgets are now considered recession-proof. The average enterprise AI budget has hit $124 million annually. Databricks isn't selling potential, they're capturing actual spend from companies that have already decided AI infrastructure is non-negotiable. Their AI-specific revenue run rate, $1.4 billion. That's 26% of total revenue coming from products that barely existed 18 months ago. Genie, Agentbricks, Lakebase. These aren't PowerPoint slides anymore. They're production systems processing real workloads for real enterprises writing real checks. And Databricks isn't alone in this infrastructure land grab. ClickHouse announced a $400 million Series D in January, explicitly tied to scaling analytics for AI workloads. They reported 250% year-over-year ARR growth. Upwind Security raised $250 million at a $1.5 billion valuation, positioning as runtime-first cloud security for AI systems. Ramp pulled in over $1 billion across multiple Q4 filings. The picks and shovels layer is getting funded at a scale that should make every model wrapper company deeply uncomfortable. Here's the compute constraint that makes all of this even more interesting. OpenAI just signed a $10 billion multi-year agreement with Cerebras for 750 megawatts of computing power through 2028. That's the power consumption of a mid-sized city locked up in long-term contracts. The investment requirements for AI are real, and it's creating gravitational pull toward platforms that help enterprises operationalize AI efficiently without building their own data centers. Databricks is essentially selling leverage against that reality. No wonder enterprises are writing 8-figure checks.
Oh, hey, friend. Do you like what you're hearing? Now you can have a ridiculously amazing podcast, too. Check out holler.studio to get yourself one today.
So what does this mean for your portfolio construction? If you're a growth stage investor, you need to ask whether you're over-indexed on model wrappers and under-indexed on the infrastructure that lets those wrappers scale. The revenue multiples are compressing for SaaS companies without clear AI differentiation, but Databricks is growing 65% at a $5.4 billion run rate. The market will pay premium multiples for platforms that aggregate AI spend across multiple use cases. If your portfolio companies are building vertical AI solutions, the strategic question is whether they're building on top of Databricks class platforms or trying to own the full stack and compete with $7 billion budgets. The capital efficiency answer increasingly favors building on the platform. For Series A and B investors, the opportunity is in the gaps Databricks doesn't cover or covers poorly. ClickHouse raised $400 million because Databricks' analytics engine isn't optimized for real-time sub-second queries. Langfuse got acquired because LLM observability is still fragmented. Look for companies building connective tissue between the mega platforms, data quality for fine-tuning, agent orchestration layers, governance wrappers for regulated industries, vertical-specific data models. These are defensible wedges that can grow into standalone platforms or become acquisition targets when Databricks decides to fill the gap with some of that $7 billion. For LPs and fund managers, the concentration of capital in late-stage infrastructure deals suggests the AI stack is settling around a few dominant platforms much faster than previous technology cycles. This creates barbell risk in venture portfolios. You either need exposure to the mega platforms capturing enterprise spend or exposure to the long tail of vertical applications sitting on top. The dangerous middle ground is Me Too horizontal infrastructure that lacks the scale to compete with Databricks or the vertical specificity to command premium pricing. The exit landscape for mid-tier horizontal AI infrastructure companies is narrowing fast. You're either acquired by a mega platform, good outcome, but capped upside, or you need to pivot vertical to avoid direct competition. The companies winning in this environment can either show Databricks-like revenue growth and efficiency, or they own a specific vertical so deeply that the mega platforms can't replicate it. Everything in between is getting squeezed. So let's come back to where we started. $4 billion. One company. 1 quarter. But that number was never really the story. The story is what that number represents. A market that's decided enterprise AI infrastructure is the new enterprise software. A market where platforms capture budgets and applications capture workflows, with nothing sustainable in between. A market where $7 billion budgets don't just fund growth. They fund the reduction of competition. The question I asked at the beginning, do you know where your portfolio sits in the AI stack? That question just got a lot more expensive to answer wrong. Because Databricks isn't building a company anymore. They're building the foundation that every other AI company will either pay to use or pay to compete against. 65% growth at $5.4 billion in revenue, $600 million in new ARR every 60 days. $134 billion valuation with debt capacity to spare. That's not a funding round. That's the sound of a category getting locked. That's our venture capital podcast for today. If you learned something new, tap 5 stars and follow our show. Thank you for listening to Metagame.
Grep News. Thomas.